Welcome back to Switch to Linux. So I am working from a little remote office here today, so don't have all the regular lighting or even my Switch to Linux shirt, so I'm kind of in a cold basement here. But I decided I wanted to get a video out today, and particularly I wanted to talk about one of the major differences between Windows and Linux, a good reason why you should consider switching to Linux. And that has to do with the security updates. So, every time I'm using my hotkeys on OBS, I switch over. My tabs keep changing on there. So I'm just kind of getting used to using the hotkeys and things. I'm usually have a dual monitor system set up. So I came across this article here on ARSTechnica yesterday, and I wanted to do a little discussion point on this, because what happened here is there was a major zero-day exploit found in Windows. Now, of course, zero-day exploits in Windows are not super common, because a zero-day exploit means that it is an exploit that is discovered that can be taken advantage of. Whether or not it is a different story. But since Windows source code is hidden for the most part, it really prevents people from really digging in and finding the problems, which is actually another reason why it's such a big hack target, because people find it and it usually gets exploited by hackers before it ends up getting patched. And it's in response to the hacks is where Windows usually tracks down what the problem is. So there are bug bounties, though. They are becoming a little bit more open with some of their sources. And what this has to do with is the Samba servers. So Samba, of course, is the file sharing structure. And there is a problem. And basically what happened is the security team at Carnegie Mellon actually issued the vulnerability alert. In fact, this is the note report of this. It says it's a fairly serious report, basically meaning that if a malicious person gets a hold of your Windows computer, even remotely, you can connect it to a Samba server by taking advantage of a memory loop. And so there's references and information here on the security bug. So what happened here, and the reason this became this type of article, is because this person, Laurent Gaffey, is a security researcher who reported these bugs to Microsoft back in September. So this is an exploit that has been known. Microsoft knew about this for several months now. It is now February. That was September when this was first made known. And she writes in an email that I decided to release this bug 1 week before the patch is released because it is not the first time Microsoft sits on my bugs. I'm doing free work here for them. I'm not paid in any ways for that, with the goal of helping their users. When they sit on a bug like this one, they're not helping the users, but doing marketing damage control and opportunistic patch releases. So basically, Microsoft doesn't push out big updates except for their patch Tuesday, which I think I've heard recently they're changing it to something else. But in response to this bug and this zero-day exploit, which is quite serious, Microsoft's public relations had this to say: Windows is the only platform with a customer commitment to investigate reported security issues and proactively update impacted devices as soon as possible. An unnamed spokesperson replied in an email, quote, we recommend customers use Windows 10 and the Microsoft Edge browser for best protection. That's what they said instead of patching a bug that they've known about for 4 months. September, October, November, December, 5 months. That's almost six months. This is a while they've known about this. And so this is a major issue. It's a major problem. And the reason this article came out, not to say, hey, there's this bug in Windows, but hey, Microsoft has known about this bug for a long time. And rather than patch it, they released this type of public relations garbage. Basically, it says the same thing that a lot of other companies are saying. It's just, we have a great commitment to you. You want to know what commitment is? Commitment is patching the bug. So let me show you this. Here is the Ubuntu security site where bugs and exploits are noted. Now, there's kernel exploits here. I'm not using this version of kernel, so they're not showing up in my update manager. But I'm just looking at some of these. February 1st, here is a IU code tool vulnerability. Here is my history of updates. And I just have to find these, but you will find, here's my IO code tool patched the very day it was released. So a security vulnerability was made known, and the difference here is that these security vulnerabilities in Linux, because it is open source, people can find, identify, and report these, and then they usually get patched before people have known much about them. So here's your libxpm vulnerability, patched the day it came out. I'm just looking through the list here. Now, there was a day I missed a few updates, and so you'll find a few updates didn't patch on the day that they came out. That's because for a couple days at the end of January, I didn't push updates. But here you can see, this vulnerability. It's patched on my system. OpenSSL, patched on my system. Thunderbird vulnerabilities, patched on my system. These things were patched the day they came out. You want to talk about commitment to their code and to their customers. You're talking about a system that is updated in an appropriate manner. And the Linux community does keep their things updated in a regular basis. All right. So here we have, instead of giving us this garbage, they're telling us we're the only platform with a customer commitment to investigate reported security issues and proactively update impacted devices as soon as possible. They say after 6 months of being alerted to this by a security person. And then they're like, we recommend customers use Windows 10 and the Microsoft Edge browser. This security vulnerability has nothing to do with Edge at all. It has nothing to do with the internet at all. It has to do with how file structures are shared. So, for example, on this computer, and on my home network, which I'm not on my home network right now, the security, or if you go into the network here, and if I were actually connected to my VPN and it actually worked well on my, the place where I'm at right now uses the same IP configuration as my home network does, and that actually causes my server to not work correctly. But if I come down here to network and I access the files on a Samba server, then that's the type of exploit. Well, Windows does the same thing. In fact, the Samba server is initially a Windows issue. And with that being said, this has nothing to do with Microsoft Edge browser or anything else, but that's what they're saying. And this is just reading on the ignorance of people. So you want to talk about a group that has commitment. I mean, this is Ubuntu. These things are released the day they're released. An update goes through, and I'm even on Linux Mint, which isn't even Ubuntu. It's just based on it. And, that kind of shoots a hole in the old theory that people would, Linux Mint used to be out of date on some of their packages. No, not really. They're actually pretty up to date. So with all of that being said, that's essentially what I wanted to talk about today, is the fact that Windows does say, they have all the PR stuff to say, we really support our customers. It's just like every time a food poisoning breaks out at some random restaurant, the very first thing you hear is some PR guy, we have a great commitment to our customers. So great, in fact, that we don't even make our employees wash their hands, whatever, And that's the type of thing that Windows is doing. And that's the type of thing that Linux doesn't do. They just quietly go about their business. They patch the bugs as they find them. They're usually not exploited nearly as much. But for 6 months, Windows has known about this bug. And of course, you can read over here the recommended actions right now are, unless you really need your Samba servers, you disable them. And you disable, and this site here tells you disabling TCP ports 139, 445, UDP ports 137, 138. From the local network to the WAN. So that means that if your computer is sitting behind a firewall, behind a router, you're probably already taken care of. Anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't. So I'm over here on this new different computer system here. You can't see my screen. I apologize for that. Let me go right back again. So the basic site here. Will tell you what to do. TCP ports 139, 445, and UDP ports 137 and 138. Turn those off. Access to the WAN, and you should be relatively protected from this. But until Windows gets around to actually releasing what they need to release. So with that, this has been Tom, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.